So I'm down here in Chinatown, and you can see their new banners. And the banner, since I can't get details, it says "Welcome to Chinatown," which is nice, emphasizing the Chinatown. And I'm right here outside the Marriott, and let's see if I can get that right. Yep. The Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. And then they have the Guardians. And these are guardians to guard against evil spirits. So it protects the entrance. So when the person walks in, they can feel at peace that the spirits, the evil spirits, the demons, won't follow them into the establishment. So it guards and frightens off the demons, so that people can walk in and feel at peace. And if they wanted to, they can burn some traditional incense that further ward off. And then there's some chimes in that they can play in the music that further ward off evil spirits. So when people, are in there, they can feel at peace. And it's Chinatown, so it gives them that, that immersion. They're very superstitious people. And so you have to deal with it. I dealt with highly superstitious people. So, again, I hope they're repaving the street or doing something to improve. But it seems like they're doing some little improvements. Here's Pacific Global. Right here. And right around Chinatown, and emphasizing that's one hotel, but I'll go by the other hotel and I'll show you the other hotels. There's a ton of hotels right around Chinatown. And if Chinatown gets more prominent, it can fill those hotels on a more regular basis. Truly, this is a destination. This is the only growing Chinatown, or was the only growing Chinatown in the United States, and a very prominent Chinatown, or it should be. And so, again, you have a nice little bar that's there. And so I'll show you the hotel. So we got one hotel, and then we're going to turn here and I'll show you the new hotel. But remember, Pacific Global is one small community bank, and then you have Cathway right here. I used to know these people. And you got this bank right here, where you can't see it behind the tree, but you can see it better up here. This white sign says Cathway Bank. So they can do syndication between Pacific Global, Cathway, and American Metro, which you have right over here is the third bank. Now, these are three community banks. Right here is American Metro. And these are three community banks. And here's the second hotel. And now this is embedded in Chinatown. So is the Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. These are both embedded within Chinatown. And then you have this, and then you have the mall. This is a mall. This is an outdoor mall, and it's the Chinatown Mall. And so it has lots of restaurants, but the center is where all the action happens. This is the backside, and they need to figure out how to do a better job of representing the backside so it doesn't look so dingy. But you have two hotels embedded, and then you have inside the mall, you have right here, you have U.S. Bank. So back there, right here, is U.S. Bank. Now, this is a big East Coast bank. U.S. Bank, dominant player on the East Coast. But again, the small community banks can work with the bigger U.S. Bank. And now it's East Coast focused. And then they have the fourth bank that's in here. And I'm talking in this area. And you have right here, I'll just pull up, you have Citibank. And what's Citibank more about? Now, they're more East Coast, but they're more internationally focused. So I think they have good representation in China. And I'll look it up, and I'm almost positive Citibank has a good presence. They do have a lot of international banks or international branches. So that's 5 banks, 3 small, 2 large, 2 more East Coast focused, but Citibank is more international than East Coast. It has a small presence, but presence on the East Coast, more international based. So they all have a little bit different to offer, but they can work in syndication together. And so in one way they're competing, in another way they can help each other out. So the banks can meet and work on things together, on developmental projects and that around the Chinatown area, and be able to offload risk factors so no one bank is too concentrated on any particular project in the Chinatown area. Now they have all this off Chinatown, and then you have further down on Wetmore that breaks from the old Chinatown is Fukurama, and so that's more towards Sox Park. But we're going to go over here, and this is Cermak, but we're going to go up Cermak, and this leads in right into Old Town. Cermak is divided. If you go south on Cermak, when you get to Wetmore, you're into Old Chinatown. If you go north on Wetmore, right there is the Chinatown Mall. You would say New Chinatown. If that's Old Chinatown, then the mall is New Chinatown. So it's Nouveau Chinatown and Old Testament Chinatown. So you got 2 hotels, right? Now these dormitories here, this housing, from my understanding, was before for UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago. They have a presence here, and they're up on Halstead, which is not too far away, the college. And I think they had medical students that were staying there, that were in UIC or UI Health, but they were in UIC Medical School. And so I used to visit Chris and Chris, who were Indian and had a lot of Indian doctors. UIC has a heavier Indian presence when it talks about enrollment. Not so much Chinese, but heavier Indian presence. And I met a lot of UIC people that are in technology and other fields that are Indian background. So they tend to have a heavier presence of people from India, or Indians that are American Indians, not Native Americans, but with heritage from India, going to school at UIC. So, and the reason they go there is because it's a very good value for the dollar. So they can get a very good education at a lower cost. And so they tend to go here because of the economics. Good value. UIC, like my nephew Adam, graduated from there. It's a very good value for its dollar. For how much you're paying, the med school, the other programs are very good. It's not Northwestern or University of Chicago, where you're going to pay a fortune for the program, but you get the very prestigious name. UIC Flames, UIC doesn't have that prestigious name, but the programs are very good for what you pay. And so you're going to get a very good education for the dollar you pay. The medical school is one of the best medical schools for the dollar. It's very affordable, and you get a very good education. So we're going to talk back there. Now, what do you have here? Wintrust Arena, and this is smaller, but it can run different events related to Chinatown. It's a big arena. They can run the Taste of Chinatown here. The Taste of Chinatown inside, in the winter, inside the stadium. They can set up everything on the arena floor, and you can run smaller events like the Taste of Chinatown during the winter. See, we need to do food tastings, not like, Chicago food tastings, the street fairs. Those are really about vendors and food tastings. The street fairs give a lot of connection to the restaurants, the Taste of Randolph and others. So, but we don't have any winter, late fall, winter, early spring. And we can do indoor here at the Wintrust, like the Taste of Chinatown. Now, here's the third hotel that's down the street, and it's another Marriott. So you got two Marriotts. This is the Marquis, very close to Chinatown. And then right around the corner, you have the Hyatt McCormick Place. Now, that brings in the fourth hotel, right off of Chinatown. But this is for larger events. But you could have the Taste of Chicago winter event. So there can be a summer Taste of Chicago and a winter Taste of Chicago. And it can be held at McCormick Place. It's a citywide tasting event. Remember, we have the food and restaurant show that comes, but that's during the summer. This is a Taste of Chicago. And if you wanted to at McCormick, you could have also a Taste of Illinois. And people would come in to try restaurants from all over the state, and other vendors would set up, like from Galena, going skiing in Galena, and, doing winter activity in Galena. Galena is beautiful. I've been up there, and, they have skiing, and they have other winter activities, and it's a beautiful place to go in the winter. But again, they could have the Taste of Chicago and the Taste of Illinois during the winter. And it could be back-to-back, where you have the Taste of Chicago or the Taste of Illinois, and it breaks down into the smaller, the Taste of Chicago. So you have the bigger one, the first week, the Taste of Illinois, and then the second week, all non-Chicago restaurants and leave, and it's just the Taste of Chicago. But places like marketing for Galena or marketing for other areas of Chicago can still be, or Illinois can still be in there, but the food is just Chicago focused. So they can do that and use and create winter events that allow people to come down and experience and get to know different areas. And then they can have, like I said, the agricultural events where they can have the corn show, the soybean show, or the agricultural show where they bring in all the different apples and soybeans and corn from Illinois, and then they could have a Midwest agricultural function as well. So again, they can drive a lot, and then you can bring down vendors and that purchase from different parts of the world. Invite people from China and other countries that purchase agricultural product, and you have the agricultural show for the Midwest, and you invite different embassies from around the world. We have all these different consulates, and you can invite the consulates, not only in Chicago, if they're in any other Midwest states, to the Midwest Agricultural Show at McCormick Place, and they can sample the crops and that, and then you go through the embassies, through their consulates, to talk about entering their business markets for, being in their restaurants and so on, or other products they might produce from it, like maybe they produce alcohol or other things, and so they need grain or sour mash or whatever it may be. And so you bring the consulates in and you work through them to establish connections back into the business communities. So again, that's how you can use the consulates to be positive here. They want to do import-export, right? And the consulates can get together in Chicago, and we can have a show with all the consulates that are here or in the Midwest, and they can set up booths for businesses to talk to them at the McCormick Center. And it's meet the different consulates from around the world, and you can talk to them, like if you're going to do tourism in that country and you want to set up like Apple Vacations, and they can go around to the different consulates talking about setting up vacation packages in their country, working with the government to establish tourism. And Apple Vacations is here in Chicago, and they would go to the show, or your, White Castle franchisee, White Castle Chicago, you own this, it's a franchise, and you go to the consulate show and you talk about maybe setting up a White Castle in, say, I don't know what consulates, in Ghana. So they have a consulate, I think, here. And it makes it very easy for the business to reach out to the international community that are thinking about doing things overseas. And so you would have that at McCormick Place, and you can replicate this around the country. So there are consulates in California and it's something they can do up that way, and you have your particular down here. And so, again, it can go throughout the country, and you can reverse it out to other countries around the world as well. And it's a way for the U.S. embassies around the world would set this up, and that benefits the British embassies and the Canadian embassies, because they would be at this consulate embassy event to connect with businesses, people that are looking to import or export from their particular country. And they get to come up to the table and meet the ambassadors and talk about their product and so on and so forth. Meet the embassy team or the consulate team, and they drop information and they make their pitch. And then they get back to them about it, and, they have to be serious about, vetting, and then they get back to them and they tell them, well, you meet the requirements or you don't meet the requirements for these. And we have certain industries that we protect, and we believe that for, competitive reasons that we're not the right fit for you. And thank you, but, no thank you. But they can turn around and say, well, you can't import to our country, but if you want to export our product, maybe you can be an export and sell your product alongside our product. they could reverse it. So, but again, and then it's the same thing with the police and that. They have things and they can talk to the consulates about their legal systems and their law enforcement and so on. And maybe they have things that, they want to introduce, Mexico or Argentina or Venezuela on. And they get to pitch their product as well. They have an industry. They have certain things that they might have patented processes that they think would be fairly effective in incorporating dealing with criminal activity and so on. And they can make a pitch that, maybe you would want to take a look at our offering on the criminal justice side. So again, they should have that. And this is the way we do international trade and help them, and then they can set up similar types of events in their country, and we would be the visiting embassy or visiting consulate, and their people will get to be able to talk to us about import-export opportunities. Because going there, you might just want to import a product from Brazil. Maybe the Brazilian embassy is there, and you want to import sugar. And you want to be a sugar distributor for their here in the United States. Or here in Illinois, you want to import Brazilian sugar. So it's not hawking them a product. Maybe you want to get a product from them and be a distributor. So you have to figure out which way you want to be. But again, we set up this way to interact with countries on a country level. And then you're going to have to go down, but they're going to do the introductions to you, to the people in those industry. And you have the blessing of the government, so you don't have to worry about trade embargoes or anything else, because the government is already approved for you to do. North Korea can be here, and they can have a consulate or, set up, and they can be talking about exporting their noodles, which are supposed to be phenomenal. Simon had them. He said they're incredible. So, and he eats a lot of noodles. He's Asian. But he said the North Korean noodles, that noodle dish is incredible. He couldn't stop raving about it. I think he had it when he was in Vietnam or something like that. But again, this is a way we can do it. Same with the TV industry and movie industry. You might want to get distribution for a program, or you might want to do BritBox, right? And you want to bring British programming to the United States because you see a market. Like maybe you want to bring Greek programming and you see a market for, Greek shows and targeting, people with Greek heritage, like we have Greektown. So, again, that's import-export. And this has the blessing. It's set up and endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, the Chicago Chamber of Commerce, and then it goes and is endorsed by our government, both the federal, state, county, and local. So setting up this and making it easier for people around the world to do trade. And they go through the process and they know what they need to do and what hoops they have to jump through, and the embassy can give them everything. This is what I used to do at John Hancock. When I worked for Singapore, I had Asha. Asha they have a proprietary management, and they manage, money, and they want to offer that to the financial advisors of Singapore. And I said, that's fine. And I called up Scott, who moved to S&P. Now he's at S&P. He's a good guy, but he moved and worked for moved to work for Standard & Poor's. But anyways, I talked to him and some others, Sean, and we set it up, and Asha got the package, and she had to complete all this information, and then she submitted the package, and then they reviewed it because they're looking for, the offer to the advisors, top-notch investing opportunities, managed money opportunities, and they have a managed money platform, and they didn't meet the requirements. They have to get a little bit bigger. They were too small for the platform, and they want it bigger because a bigger money management platform has less risk. They have more assets, and through that they're more diversified and deeper into a market or markets, and so they have a little bit less risk profile. And so they told them that the platform is just too small right now, and you have to grow the platform, and once you reach this size, resubmit, and we'll reevaluate to see if we want to offer you on our platform to our advisors around the country. And that includes advisors in Canada because of Manulife. So again, and now they're in Asia, and they bought a segment of Transamerica, and so they grew their advisory business. But no problem. And we have a vetting, and if you have something of quality that can add to the organization's open to look at it. So in one way, we're competing for clients in the Chicago market, but in another way, they can be a platform that I can offer to my clients. They might want their management platform. So it's the same thing. That's an import-export business. Sometimes you're in competition, other times you're not. And this is why Morningstar, they have its own mutual funds. And they have a China wall, and those mutual funds compete with Vanguard, compete with Fidelity and others. But on the other side, they get resources from them, and they allow people to look at their mutual funds. Vanguard, remember, Morningstar is a marketing organization, and they allow people to kick the tires of fund companies' investments, whether it's American Funds, PIMCO, and others, and being on the Morningstar platform, which is huge. Lots of advisors get to kick the tires of these mutual funds, of these ETF investments or securities investments. So they want to be on the platform, so they open up information to them. Because why? It allows them to be viewed by advisors for potential platform investments into Vanguard, into Fidelity. So Morningstar is marketing them. And to be able to market them effectively, they require certain information from the mutual funds so the advisors can kick the tires of the investments properly. So they have this agreement to govern this information, to further market their investment platform to advisors not only here, but around the world. Morningstar's around the world. And so, again, it's like the Bloomberg machine.